Hello, everybody. My name's Milan Starcic. Welcome to Freedom Rising, a podcast dedicated to empowering individuals on the journey to personal growth, lasting serenity, and freedom from addiction. Tune in and join the movement. Your journey to freedom starts here. We neither represent, promote, or demote any 12-step program or organization. We are merely souls on the path of recovery with the desire to expand our lives and experiences and share them with you. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 87th Recovery Freedom Rising podcast. I'm Milan Starcic with co-hosts Shannon B and Bryant W. Today's topic is humility. Bryant, would you please share what this means to you and why you're happy to discuss this here today?
Good morning. Lovely to see you both again, and very excited to continue talking about all these wonderful principles that seem to have helped us quite a bit in our journey. So this word humility, I always address the word because I like to admit that these things have become, they have a newness to them and a different sort of realness that I didn't understand before. Willingness, honesty, the reality of how these facts have come into play when we become able to see ourselves from an angle that was previously sort of veiled to us. I thought that I knew what humility was. I thought that I knew what being humble was. But as usual, there's more to be revealed. And so for myself, I remember when I met my first spiritual guide or sponsor, and he sort of kept using this word, and he's like, you need more humility, you need more humility. And I was like, more humility? I was like, I've never been more, humiliated and down on my luck and worried about what's going to happen to me in my life. I'm going to meetings, I'm doing all this stuff. Like, what do you mean? And apparently there's more to it. So I'm grateful that we're going to dive into it and share our own experiences with this topic. And what's the one thing that came to mind? Oh yeah. So, and I think a lot of it comes down to it, which is really great because I think it's a crucial ingredient to being open-minded about traveling through the rest of the process. And the beauty is tied into the fact that we have to admit we're powerless. And I'm excited to see how that kind of comes up during this chat.
Awesome. Has anybody told you too they love you today?
No.
Well, welcome to a Saturday morning love. Okay, Shannon, could you tell us what humility means to you and why you're happy to discuss this here today?
Yeah, like Brian said, it's just a different meaning than what I thought it was coming in, right? Like I knew what to be humiliated was, I knew my own definition of where I was humble, but really I wasn't, you know what I mean? And coming into recovery, I realized that it's having acceptance of where I am, mentally, like emotionally, spiritually, and realizing too that I have a lot more to grow and to learn from. It's being teachable for me. It's being open-minded, being tolerant of others, showing myself self-compassion without judgment to the way other people perceive me too, and getting right with God. Like I want my actions and my thoughts to align with the life that God wants me to have. And if I can't come in and say, hey, I know that I've made mistakes and I don't want to live like this anymore, and I'm willing to let you teach me and guide me and show me a new way of life, and not taking that personally, like you're saying I'm a bad person or this, it's like, yeah, I've made mistakes in my actions and I want to improve and get better, because if we're going to stay the same way we were when we were drinking, how long until we're drunk again?
Yeah, I love that. And, for me, the closest thing I understood about humility was that Kenny Rogers song. That, oh Lord, it's hard to be humble when you're perfect in every way, which is like the total opposite of where we're probably going to go today. And so, I would arrogantly say things about myself that had no humility in it. and that also were just kind of based on delusions, and for me, I think like honesty and humility, they're like co-joined twins. Like I'm not getting
Yeah,
humility unless I've got honesty. And having that, entering the program and kind of starting to just say, hey, like I'm powerless over this and my life is unmanageable. Like that was my first step towards honesty and humility, because I didn't have this. And I knew at that point I didn't have it, and the pretending was over. So I'm going to leave that
yeah.
there. Mr. Lightning Bolt, would you like to ask Shannon a question to start off the round?
Oh,
Cool.
I'm doing it.
Yeah, let's start with this today. Why not? Every time we'll kind of shake it up. Just keep people on their toes. Whoa, what are you thinking? Who knows what's coming?
Okay. Well, I'm gonna go with the second question I had written down because Shannon already addressed it in her intro, which I thought was really cool. I was told that humility is to seek and do God's will. So, can you elaborate on that, and can you share what that means to you?
Thanks, Lightning. I'm short forming it to just Lightning.
Yeah,
It just rolls
I
off the
know. I'll
tongue.
No,
call him LB, but you can
things
call him Lightning.
things are getting wild around here. I'm embracing these names like it's wild.
It's real early in the morning for us to have all these nicknames for you too. Sorry, can you repeat the question? I got sidetracked on the lightning, literally.
Holy. Okay,
Did it
so I was
spark? Did it spark a different idea in you?
it shorted the circuit.
Did.
Powerful voltage. Okay, I was told humility is to seek and do God's will. Um, can you elaborate on that, and what does that mean to you?
hmm So humility when it comes to like seeking and doing God's will is to be like free from pride and arrogance, right? To live a life where I am alongside others, not walking in judgment of them, right? No better than, no worse than either. And when I say like to seek and do God's will, right, that my thoughts and my actions align with that so that I'm treating people with love, tolerance, compassion, the same way
Nice.
that I would want to be treated too, right? I'm not walking into a room and being open-minded to everybody around me, then coming home and being a different person, right? To my family. So that's really important to me. And that my behavior is consistent and aligned with how God would want me to treat people. Like, how does God want me to show up in these situations? And then I do my best to be that way, right? Doesn't mean I'm not going to fall short
Nice.
of those things, but God's will is for me to treat people with love and compassion and to not be judgmental and to see the best in people and also to be open-minded to hearing feedback from others and saying, hey, I didn't get this right, so I'm going to ask for forgiveness and I'm going to change my behavior, and that doesn't come with a
Yeah.
result.
Wow. Well said.
Beautiful. Wow. Did you play baseball? Because I think you just knocked it out of the park, Shannon. I
I
loved
like
that.
to stay I like to stay humble, so I really do appreciate the compliment. Thank you, Milan.
I just
Didn't even
loved it.
recognize myself on that one.
Yeah, I
You know,
know.
That
I
was
did, but
wild.
I've been known to score a few home runs and knock them out of the park every now and then.
Yes.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh, I
total
love it.
opposite of what I just said, that I'm gonna talk in my arrogance and pride, but we gotta laugh, right, guys?
Yeah, we
Yes.
do. We do. And we do over and over again. This show's got some giggles to it. That's for sure. Because we got freedom rising in our hearts. Boom.
I love it.
Would you like me to
I
read
need it.
question?
I don't even know where we are. No, yeah.
I was told humility is to seek and do God's will. What does that mean to you, Milan?
Well, coming in, I felt like I was self centered to the nth degree.
Yeah.
And so not only was I pretty self serving, but my perspective was so skewed that even when I thought I was being generous, I wasn't, you know? And so I had to kind of, first of all, get straight. I had to get straight so I could start to clarify my pond of perception.
Yeah.
And then, you know, started to be honest with myself, but I also had to start chipping away at that ego. And, you know, a big part of that was I was so trapped in shame and guilt my whole life. And by the time I came in, I was so anxious that like I was nowhere near the present moment.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that it's only in the present moment that we're going to have our conscious contact with our higher power. You know, like
Yeah.
we can't be honest yesterday, today. And we can't, you know, have compassion for tomorrow now. Like we can only do what's right in front of us. And so a big part of the humility for me is seeing that I'm part of right now,
Yeah.
and trying to keep myself in this moment right now. And so, you know, it's a damn struggle a lot of days, you know, on a day where I have like a lot of things lined up. You know, it's really hard to go pull it back to now, pull it back to now, because those next 4 hours are going to play out however they're going to play out with whatever I've prepared at this point. And
Mm-hmm.
and so it's getting myself out of the way to see what part of this universe I am for me. And I'm going to leave it there. Oh, by the way, I love
Nice.
you guys. I love you guys.
Love you too.
Love you too. Nice. So when this was said to me, it was one of those moments early on where I was like, whoa, like I'm definitely very interested in not drinking anymore. I can see the value in being less self-centered. I'm down to help out at these gatherings, but I don't necessarily know if I'm willing to give up my life. So okay, I'll say it differently because now I'm sound like I haven't learned anything. But God's will scared me because I thought that meant like I would become like sent somewhere I don't want to go, hang out with people I don't want to be around. Like I always thought it would be some, because I always had this tendency to project human inadequacy or human limitations onto God, which is like really interesting. But I think it happens because we've spent our whole lives interacting with human beings. So it's sort of like, what would God's will really be? But Shannon clarified that very well by talking about more of like the principles and how you're living. It's not like, should I go to the market at 11:30? Like, does God want me to go buy vegetables this afternoon? It's like, no,
Peas
if
or
I go
carrots?
buy vegetables, yeah, if I go buy vegetables, I like someone bumps their cart into the back of my shin. How do I respond to that? And so I think it's more about our attitude in our daily life and kind of like energy we bring to our scenarios. And that's such a relief because I can work with that. I was scared that I was going to be sent to like some weird country where I was going to have to like I'm just kidding, but um, I confuse I confuse God's will with like a boring, scary life. I don't know. I don't know. Um, so when this guy asked me that, he basically was asking me if I was willing to change. And once I started having these experiential uh, kind of moments in my life where I could really see how important it is to be willing to change along with the like the obvious, which is getting rid of the substance. The other most amazing thing that happened was um, I could start seeing how I needed to address how I was responding to other people. I was at the mercy of seeking myself in others for many, many, many years, and it was the first time in my life where I was like, maybe I can actually be okay without it being reflected back to me from other people, and like regardless of what's reflected back to me, and like that to this moment is my biggest job. Is that's been the biggest piece of work that's come is um no longer requiring outside affirmation for me to be okay and to know that I'm on the right track. Does that make sense?
That's a beautiful insight, my friend. I love that.
Yeah, right
Are you
on.
finished now?
I think so.
Okay, then, subtle Shannon, could you please spring a question on me?
Subtle Shannon.
Yes, you're very
Love it.
subtle in your humor sometimes.
Sure. Okay, so when it comes to humility, believe that a major part of our recovery and how that pertains to humility is realizing and accepting that we are not God. How does that show up for you in your recovery, and what have you learned as a result of practicing humility in your life?
You know, I was killing myself trying to pull the strings at the end of the time in my addiction. Like my last 6 months, and I have no clue, can't speak for anybody else, but my last 6 months was nothing but anxiety. And I could feel like the harder I tried to get a grip on everything, the more it was slipping through my fingers. And it was just crippling me with not a good time, and so the first step of kind of surrendering my addiction, that was like a relief, like such a relief. So much of my mental space was reclaimed to actually be able to have peace finally, like where instead of it just like more, like it was just like there was like a speck of silence finally. and
Mm.
and uh, and inside my addiction there was not any silence, and so when it started getting shown to me that that this is kind of the path that I have to go on, and people are explaining, you know living by the principles and living presently and everything, like when this is all starting to come together, it's like my little speck of serenity now is like that big, and then it's that big, and then sometimes I'm like, whoa, shit, did I just have an afternoon where I was like in a really good spot the whole afternoon? And so giving away that control has actually given me more methods to increase that serenity for myself. And
Amazing.
I had this friend. He used to be called BW, but now his name's Lightning Bolt. He was telling me this story about this guy Harry, who had him work this God box thing. And I've mentioned this on a lot of the episodes, but for me, using that has been incredibly useful as a real visualization of giving away that control. So I literally have
Yeah.
my Harry God box sitting on my kitchen table right beside my chair with a pen and a scrap of paper, and just I'll start the morning, and I could feel where I'm trying to take my will right in the morning. Like before I'm even done my tea, I got four things lined up that I shouldn't even be the one trying to control. And I'm just like, rip them off, rip them off, rip them off, stuff them in the box, and then try to move on into my morning. Like I think that
Nice.
we need to patent the Harry God box, and then raise money for addiction awareness with them, and just sell these little Harry God boxes. I think that would be a very funny thing. But, but
Self-supporting.
well, I just, you know what? I think that, like maybe buy literature for people with the Harry Godbox Fund. It could be a really
Funny.
interesting fund, or buy people trips to
Tell me
treatment.
you're in sales without telling me you're in sales. I love how this
Yeah.
conversation on humility just turned into
Yeah,
a
yeah.
sales pitch.
Yeah, yeah.
And for $9.99, you can be humble
Yeah.
AF like us.
Yeah.
Hey,
You can
just give your
also
will
have a
away. Give
box
your
of
will away
soda.
for 1642. That's right, plus shipping. Yes, we do not ship to the 51st state.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna leave it there because apparently I'm turning into a salesman.
This is gold. This is gold. No, I just laughed because it was the way you spun that was so good. Okay,
Okay, Brian, or no, Shannon, you gotta ask Brian.
V, do you want me to repeat that?
Yes.
Um, yes. Sorry. I was hoping I could remember.
Oh my
A
God, I
major
almost spit
part,
my tea all over the computer.
a major part of our recovery from addiction is realizing and accepting that we are
Uh,
truly not God. What has
yes.
your experience been like with that?
It's a good question, and it's kind of a shocker. And I just wanted to say quickly, I just wanted to throw out that that was such a beautiful thing you said, Milan. Is that speck of silence? I think that would make for an amazing song title, personally.
Or a
Ooh,
podcast title. We could do it one time. The Speck of Silence.
We need to do something with it. I get these weird intuitions. So I did not think I was God. And that might sound lacking humility, but like nothing about my life presented as being godly, I can assure you. It was pretty much fair and yeah, there wasn't a lot of I mean, okay, so what I can say is I can relate to the idea that um um oh, the self-importance thing, like I was way too invested in my self-importance, and I think that can manifest as this idea of thinking we're the center of the universe. What also is incredible to me is how many people that you meet in these spiritual meetings that express that they thought they were God, and I'm like, whoa, like that's a lot of like pretty unstable people walking around thinking that they're God. I always had a bit of a chuckle with that, but I see exactly what it's pointing out, and I do believe that um, the difference between a grateful addict or alcoholic or someone that sort of doesn't get to that point and or doesn't find the solution is the difference between understanding that you are not this and that there is this, then relying on that is probably going to determine how much freedom or serenity you get after the fact of admittance of this powerlessness. And that's also very interesting because I don't think a lot of us in our general human approach would have been as open-minded or willing to look at these things if it hadn't been for, say, alcoholism or addiction. It's like that's the difference when people say I'm grateful, because they know that if it hadn't been for this foe, this like gnarly that's in our life that like crushed us to the like crushed us, other human beings don't have this like horrible thing that brings us to this place of willingness. So intuitively that you would have still been arrogant, self-centered, probably egoic, or running around thinking you're the center of the universe if it hadn't been for these things. So now we have access to this solution and otherwise wouldn't have found it, because that's how strong. Like sometimes when they say cunning, baffling, powerful, I look at it like the ego, not the substance. It's like the ego is the cunning, baffling, powerful. It's that sense of self that's so hard to crack and let that light in. And it literally required addiction for us to be humbled enough to see that. So that's pretty scary, but also amazing for us.
That was like epic, my friend. Woo! You're on fire this morning, Lightning Bolt. You're just like starting forest fires in my heart. And Shannon, do you want to answer your question?
sure. I just noticed you changed our names, and that always that gives me a chuckle over it's a conversation or
MT.
that is
Empty.
out. I love it. Um, yeah, it was really coming to that subtle or almost very impactful realization that like I don't have any control over the situations that happen around me or control over
Yeah.
others, right? And like we read in our literature and we laugh about it that it's like we don't get sober and suddenly everybody starts acting as we need them to be so that, we're not irritated. Like, you're welcome. I'm sober now. Please stop being an annoying person and just do things the way that I need you to do and we'll all get along, right? Like it doesn't
Yeah.
work that way, but sometimes honestly, I felt that without realizing I felt that, you know?
Sure.
Um
Yeah.
and that plays into those feelings of like loneliness, isolation, separated from others, depression, anxiety, right? Because we have to realize that we don't have control over any of those things. And it's like we're reminded time and time again. So if I'm very frustrated because I'm trying to control how somebody does something or says something or get them to see things my way, then
Ooh,
that stacks up, right, into that like stinking thinking that we have. And how long till I operate like that, where the only solution I know is to have a drink to break that thought or feeling pattern, right? So I always remind
yeah,
myself, especially in my earlier days, is like when I'd start to feel frustrated, why? It's because I'm trying to drive my will. It's not God's will,
yeah,
mine. So that's where I have to stop and reset, because I'm not trying to run up against a brick wall and think it's going to move, because I've hit it so many times. Like it doesn't work that way. Right. So, yeah, humility for me is just full acceptance and surrender in all areas of my life. I can't control what you guys say or do, but I can control how I react to it
man,
or if I do.
Yeah. Oh man, you guys are just
yeah,
inspiring like wild friends today. I love you and I appreciate you every time I get to see both of you. Okay, I am now going to ask Mr. Lightning B. Olt a question. Okay, humility is not the absence of power, but the surrender of control to something greater than the self, so that true strength can begin. Can you describe a moment when surrendering control actually gave you more freedom than holding on ever did?
Mhm.
oh, so amazing. This is why I said earlier, I'm so glad we're talking about this. I mentioned to Milan at the beginning that
You mean
there seems to
Brzezinski?
be this, yeah, the brush. Seems to be this because we become aware of this, we're almost scared to talk about humility. Like I even had someone once in a meeting say, like, if you were humble, you wouldn't talk about being humble, and it's like, I don't know about that. Like I think that we can address that we were previously more ignorant and or limited in our awarenesses, and now we're aware that there is humility that's happened. Could it continue? Yes. So anyway, I really really like this word, and so far just in our brief discussion I can see just how much it's actually changed us, and it's just such high quality stuff. um oh my god, sorry.
You forgot the question, didn't you?
Yeah.
I knew it. I could see. I could see it. Can you describe a moment when
I'm so
surrendering
sorry.
control actually gave you more freedom than holding on ever did? I loved it. I
Yeah.
saw the look. I thought like scan, 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 no find.
Oh my god. Oh my god. It's dangerous when I take like a little nibble and then I go way off. Um so yes, to be honest, it happens all the time. Was there one specific moment? I've referenced this many times. The most significant moment um was definitely, I think I was in the 3 4 month mark. I and I joke around about that. I was open minded and doing the stuff, but I wasn't really fully understanding this humility piece yet. And it makes perfect sense. Like I was very conditioned. I wasn't willing to give up certain parts of myself or my time or just different things that it's like this is my life. And this gentleman told me, he said, "You need more humility." And like every time I share that at a meeting, everyone laughs because they know that it's true and they probably can relate to it. And I immediately was hit with this like moment of humility. And I could see what he was telling me. I could see the value and I could feel the resistance that I had had. Like I was resisting something. I wasn't letting go. And I can feel it right now as I'm speaking because I know that I can let go more now. Even right this moment, I'm like, I know I can let go more. And it's almost like a draw to being like a happier, healthier person. And I like don't want to miss that. Yeah. So it's just, yeah, it blows my mind what's possible if we are willing to let go more, because man, at the beginning it feels like just you've kind of launched yourself into this new existence and the mind and the body feel good, and there's such a dramatic contrast between how you were and how you are now, and it's like this like it is like an illuminating experience. But as we go further and further, like I can see still with like my thoughts about other people, relationships, dynamics, like every single day, I would say that there's no day that passes where I can't exercise this, where I could see if I was to let go or to like you said, add more humility rather than my will. Like there's profound stuff happening, man. This other gentleman, there are these gatekeepers that I sit beside at these meetings, and these people, they'll just like sprinkle a little fairy dust on you. You don't even know it happened. And this other fella told me I need to learn how to what did he say? It's you need to learn to there's a better word. He said work with time, but he said you need to learn to um he was basically saying like it's not going to happen when you want it to happen. It's going to take time. And I'm like, well, I'm pretty sure I've been pretty patient here, sir. And and collaborate. No, collaborate with time. It doesn't matter. But it was the same as Harry. So we're talking on a level like I don't know if I'm crossing boundaries here. I don't think I'm disturbing anonymity here, but the same fellow that I mentioned with the God box, this gentleman in his like late 70s found out that one of his children wasn't his child, which turns out that it was because his wife had obviously created a child with elsewhere. And he also found out one of his, or no, then he found out he had a child that he didn't even know about. And somehow this family, through grace, humility, and the power of wisdom, figured it out. Like no one blew the whole place up. These people were embraced. Like he and his wife stayed together. They worked through it. And it's because of like years and years of practicing these principles where like the most gnarly things that could just absolutely demolish someone's experience and sense of self is met with grace, and they do things that they would never been able to do before. And when I hear stories like that, I'm like, I need that, because there's things that I just respond poorly to in life. I'm like, this is unacceptable. And I swear there's this incredible thing that happens when we grant others the same opportunity as we're being granted. And I think without the humility and the depth, the well of the depth of that actual fact of how deep that can go, I don't know. I just thought I'd share that story. But yeah, every single day.
That was a great story. That's like an inspiration to shoot for. It's funny. It keeps happening to me where I'm like, oh, I don't want to accept that. Well, I don't, I
Yeah.
shouldn't accept that. And then I'm like, what? No, I have this tattoo that says acceptance. I'm like, I'm actually should be shooting for acceptance of that. Like, no longer do I put this not accept label on a bunch of my life. Okay, Shannon, humility is not the absence of power, but the surrender of control to something greater than the self, so that true strength can begin. Can you describe a moment when surrendering control actually gave you more freedom than holding on ever did?
Hmm. It's interesting how like when times like these questions are asked and you can immediately think of a situation where you didn't do that and
Mm.
took you longer to get there, right? Like took me longer to get there. Um,
You could use that as an example, though, like a contrast.
mhm. Fear. Fear is a
Oh,
huge one. So for me, fear gets masked as anger, right? Or confrontation, or I'm really agitated. So I'm going to express how I feel in a way in which I want you to change and do something, right? And that never leads to any sort of surrender or peace or humility of any sort. And then I have to get that gross feeling inside and go, ooh, it's not how I should have done that. So I can correct myself and apologize, re-explain, and be a more humble person, right? Like the way that God wants me to. And I love what you just shared, B, because like that's, in my opinion, all God, right? Like God gives us
Yeah.
the ability to accept, to choose how we're going to, like, he didn't blow his family up. You know what I mean? He didn't start attacking his wife or I'm out, or now, I'm going to make it miserable for everybody in this family because I was left in the dark about something and he chose
Yeah.
to handle things the way that God would have wanted, right? And when I get out of my own way and I'm like, okay, God, how do you want me to show up here? It's just so much more peaceful. And
Oh,
life makes, life is just filled with so much more joy. So truly, it's choosing in those split seconds how I want to handle something. And if I'm like,
yeah.
I'm leaning into that will, then I can take a step back, take a few breaths, pray, God, guide me on how I want to show up to this. Cause that's how life is. People are human. Like I can't control how anybody's going to act, just like they can't control how I am. Right. But I can
Yeah.
control how much of that I'm going to want to have power over me. And it says, I'm
Definitely.
willing to go to any lengths for victory over alcoholism. Well,
Yeah.
this is what that looks like. You know,
Yeah.
somebody could say or do something, and I'm like, ugh, you want to react because you need to defend yourself. Or like for me, that's how I felt like in the
Of
past. And
course.
then it starts into some sort of like crazy argument or all these things that are being said. And then what? Like I'm left feeling emotionally hungover. Such a gross feeling.
Mm.
So also seeing people as frequently wrong, emotionally ill, operating in fear as well. Like the same
Yes.
compassion and tolerance that I want shown to me, like what's the bigger thing here?
Yeah.
And it's just like, I like that story that you shared because it just reminded me of something that, a woman shared with me about what she'd found out in her marriage after literally 20 plus years.
Oh
And
man.
I believe that I'm pretty accurate in saying this, that majority of non-spiritually fit women or men who would have gotten information like that would have showed up completely different. And that would have been the
Sure.
demise of a marriage and a family. And she said, the first thing I said is, like what happened to you that you haven't dealt with that's caused you to make these decisions calmly, right?
Wow.
And I was like, you know, really all I could hear was that Carrie Underwood song. I took a Louisville Slugger to both headlights, because like really, truly, right? So I was like, what a beautiful moment. Like if that isn't a woman who's aligned with, God's will and who is
Yeah.
seeking humility in her own life and isn't showing up with love, like that doesn't mean that she doesn't have feelings or that I'm not hurt over things. But I don't
Of
need to
course.
make a situation worse by trying to play God in it. And I have to remind
Holy.
myself that a lot of time. Like, if we stay out of the way, God's going to handle things. He's going to sort things out. And it might not be in our time, but it will be.
Amazing.
That was awesome.
Thank you.
I think
God.
it gives the opportunity for, I don't want to overuse the word, but like little miracles that like otherwise would never have happened. Like, I, yeah, great examples of people that take on like dragons and they do it with humility. Yeah.
Seeing these struggles as an opportunity for growth is really something that if you embrace that, holy shit, does life ever change quick? You know?
Wow.
I
Um,
remember, sorry, just one thing I want to
yeah,
add.
yeah. Go.
Someone, my home group that says this a lot. And first I was like, I didn't really understand the full impact of it until I really thought about it, right? And they say, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy?
Boom.
And there's so much like
Wow.
more to that when you
I've
think
been
about it,
saying that
right?
all the time the last 3 weeks, man. I agree.
Yeah, like I don't need to drive my point home and be like, oh, you were right. I'm sorry, all this. No, I can just be accepting of this. I can have boundaries and I can course correct. I don't got to bring that person down just because I'm hurt or whatever, right?
Wow.
I'm
Lonely
just
right
happy and
sucks
peaceful.
versus coexisting happy. Like
Yes,
lonely right is the
Lonely
shit.
right.
Like ooh, I'm
That's
right.
another tune.
lonely, right?
That's
We're making an album.
that
You're
is
naming
a
an album today.
beautiful tune,
Yeah.
man. I'm writing that down, boy.
Okay. Humility is not the absence of power, but the surrender of control to something greater than the self, so that true strength can begin. Can you describe a moment when surrendering control actually gave you more freedom than holding on ever did? So, my number one answer for this, for sure, is my entering into the program. Like, man, I
Yeah.
spent 17 years trying to control my using and drinking and the combination and whatever, like when you hit that chapter more on alcoholism, that's me, except in like modern day terms. And I could never drink like a gentleman. Let's just make that clear. Like there was
Yeah.
never, no one was like, look at gentlemanly Milan not fucking up his life. That was never said. But when I did surrender my control over my addiction, I have been shown an unlimited freedom in my brain from that. And for
Yeah.
that, I am so grateful. Like, I have not had a compulsion to use since then. And I consider it one of the like greatest gifts in my life that I've ever been given because it went from incessant and constant to nothing. And I'm so grateful for that. But another thing
Hmm.
that I want to touch on for myself is that, you know, quite recently, I've just had some conversations with some people, and there's been a couple people where they're talking about, maintaining a state of gratitude, like in every situation, even in the
Mm.
shitty ones. And
Yeah.
and and so this is something that I've had conversations with my sponsor. Then it came up with some other people conversations, and so I've been really trying to do that. Like and trying to like generate my prayer for giving thanks for the opportunity to grow in these situations that are crippling me inside myself.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
man, like that just turns it. It turns it so fast. Like, I don't even have to be happy about the situation, but once I start expressing gratitude in it, I have an immense feeling of relief. Like
It's
I
true.
was literally praying about a bunch of things like that this morning just before we came on here. And I went from like a state of like anxiety and anxiousness to just relief and playfulness. Like it was that
Nice.
fast. It was that fast. And so, to anybody out there who's suffering from a cup quarter full or cup half full syndrome, like what I have had to start looking, I was going to say what you got, but no, not you, me. What I got to look at for me is that little bit of strength I've had to get through what I have. Being grateful for that, being grateful for the opportunity to learn surrender, in a deeper, more meaningful way. Being given the opportunity to have acceptance like I would truly like to receive it from someone. These are things that for me, it's like it's been a real profound thing recently, and it keeps coming up over and over. So guess what? I'm going to share it here with you guys because you know, I'm like and if you guys are holding back on some epiphanies you've had recently, you guys are sucking because I want them.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Lightning B. Old, would you like to ask Shannon a question? Mr.
Yes, I
Old?
would.
Mr. Old, would you please ask Shannon a question?
Even that, I like Mr. Old. I think that could probably go a long way. As Shannon, as we proceed in our shortcoming, sorry, as we proceed, our shortcomings become obstacles, reminding us that um, our problems were not just drugs and alcohol. Um, how does humility aid in your progress as you become willing to address or lose those other defects of character?
Sure. Just you cut it at the end. That last said a couple sentences. How does humility?
I'll say, yeah, it's how does humility aid in your
Aid?
progress, becoming willing to address or drop those other character defects?
Mhm. Wow. That's kind of like going to tie into my question. So I'm probably going to have to give a new question down the line for this.
Oh,
No, this is great. So for me, like it's learning that humility isn't about thinking lowly of myself. It's about thinking of myself less often, right?
Yeah.
In the grander scheme of things. So when it comes to my shortcomings, right, and like how having those removed and practicing humility in my life like is more beneficial in my recovery, I believe is kind of what you're asking, right? It's how am I using my abilities and my strengths to benefit others rather than to lord them over, right? Like I'm not thinking of
Mhm.
myself as much better than or much worse off than someone else. I'm
Beautiful.
treating myself human as I am others, right? So if I want to have people be quick to forgive me or to be tolerant of me, then I have to practice that stuff, right? So if my shortcomings are like being impatient, being a little bit judgmental, reacting in anger when really it's a deep rooted fear. The less
Yeah.
that I do that and I practice the opposite of it, the more that I am living in that state of humility. Because when I came in, I didn't really understand what humility looked like in recovery, right? I understand what being humiliated felt like, or, thinking the worst of myself. But
Yeah.
what I didn't do was think of myself less often. So now it's
Right.
not so much about me as it's about, the world as a whole. And I can catch myself like, you guys, like we all experience it. We're human, whether you're in recovery or not, is something comes up and it's immediately is how does this affect me? Does this benefit or take away from me? Right? Because if it takes
Sure.
away from me, then I can try and manipulate and control this into working it to my favor. But if it benefits me, then it's like must be God's will, right? Like that's how I used to think. And now I realize that like things are just going to be as they're supposed to be. And sometimes it can be a learning lesson for me. It can be an opportunity to practice patience, to practice acceptance, to realize, hey, you know what, this isn't going to end up how I thought it was going to be, but that's because it's not supposed to.
Whoa.
Wow, like that was amazing. I just got so much insight from what you said there, Shannon.
Yeah, that was
Right.
really nice.
You guys are very kind. Thank you so much. But yeah, it was just trying to understand like we're so great at beating ourselves up, but I didn't
Yeah.
realize that there was so much self-centeredness in that either. I was like,
Good
really,
point.
me being so harsh on myself is being self-centered? Yeah, because what am I doing? I'm obsessing and thinking about me. When I could just say, hey, I'm human, I made a mistake. God, please help guide me to do better in the future. Think of myself less and then go and help somebody else.
Well said.
Boom, super insight, Shannon. Boom.
So when that situation comes up and I don't do those things, I'll mentally note that I shared this on the podcast and be
Yeah,
like,
it's
God,
it's
course
recorded.
correct me.
It's weird.
It's a
That's it.
tattoo.
Yeah.
Well, it's so
No,
it's so easy to say this stuff until you're in a situation that tests you,
that's
right?
going
You
100 miles an hour, like real life speed.
that's really well, yeah, that's an amazing point. Under pressure, how do we
Under
do?
pressure. See, like super insight, Shannon, an acronym is SIS. She's my sis.
Sis,
Yeah, you got a question for me there, BW? Can you repeat it?
as we proceed, our shortcomings become obstacles, reminding us that our problem wasn't just drugs and alcohol. How does humility aid in your progress as we become willing to address or lose or drop the other defects of character?
Well, okay, so this also has kind of been a recent thing on my whole journey through life and recovery, life recovery. Um, the surrender, right? Like the humility to see that I can't remove all these defects myself, that I am actually a shitty defect removing machine. I was a great defect building machine. If you ever want to build a life full of resentments and defects, you could hire me and I could fill your life with them in like 30 seconds or less. But removing them, I have proven to myself that I am not as great as I would like to think I was going to be at the start of my recovery. And so I made the mistake, for anybody who's out there, I did the first step of admitting I was powerless and my life had become unmanageable. And that one was really easy to do at that time. Like some people struggle with that first step, but my rock bottom was just, it was skidded to a heart stopping stall. And that was it. And I was like, holy shit, I am completely powerless over this. Like I'm dying. My life's unmanageable. Like I'm continuing to try to die. Like that was, there was a kind of a real profound shift in my consciousness at that point where I was defeated and defeated in a way that was all right with me to move in another direction. But when I hit,
Yeah.
I didn't really understand step three when I hit it. And I remember young Gabriel saying to me, he's like, just live by these principles, and at least then, you'll be living in God's will. And that was a real conceptual struggle for me.
Yeah.
Um, but then, I had a heck of a time doing my step four. Like it was dragging my life through the mud, but I really enjoyed getting rid of all that shit and starting to have some tools to see myself. But like step seven, like I think it's like I was like, I'm just gonna work on this anger. God's busy with quantum mechanics or something like that. And the truth is that, for a bunch of months, I think it was like me versus my defects and shortcomings. And I have come to see that that was totally wrong. And we had a friend from Silete on here, Tom, and his like last minute quote at the end of his session on here was, "This isn't a program of self improvement; it's a program of surrender." And for some reason, that just hit me like a tidal wave. It is.
Damn.
It is not a program of self improvement. Like if you think you're gonna come in and learn how to sweep when you've had no arms or a broom for 51 years. Like I'm like, gonna look at this pile of dust on the floor. But it's like when you start being able to actually conceptualize and actually try to surrender, there's real magic that's gonna happen in a way for me that it's just unfolding so wildly over and over. Like it really is, man. It's
Yeah.
like I got recovery fever, and and I keep burning up. Like I'm like, bro, could you get me a towel, lightning bolt? I'm burning up. Come on, Shannon, pass me that towel. I need a
Love
face
it.
cloth. I'm dripping. But you know, it the fire keeps going in my recovery fever because I keep being around amazing people like you who keep teaching me things, and then I'm having like outside of like the episodes these real life examples and struggles to test out the efficacy of this. And guess what, like this shit works, you know
Oh yes.
like it. And um it doesn't work in our time though. Like one of you, both of you guys said it, but like just
Oh,
because
cooperate.
just because I'm
That
like
was the word.
just because I'm ready to surrender doesn't mean it's all going away. Like that,
No.
well, but who was it? Somebody the other day said, they were like, though, if you don't become at least willing to surrender something, there's no room for God's crowbar to come and pry that shit out of your hands. You
Yeah.
know? And I liked that one. I was like, that's a really good one.
It's true. Like whatever created the universe actually stays completely out of our lives, except for the fact that, like, imagine if we were able to like squiggle our way through that and just like learn how to do this more responsibly. Like, imagine if that was the solution, is to like drink and do drugs a little bit better than we used to. Great. Great. You
Well,
know?
then there would be no need for the 12-step program because
But you
we,
feel me? Like that would be a
yeah,
flaw in a beautiful design if like we were allowed to just be
yeah.
self-centered and like do drugs just a little better than we used to. It's like, come on now.
Come on. Yeah, that would be pretty funny. Okay, you can answer your own question.
Oh shoot, yeah, I forgot about that.
Oh,
Um,
ooh.
so that Yeah, that was the word that I couldn't think of. It was to cooperate with time. And I think
Ooh,
that's
that makes
very
sense.
cool. And he would tell me, and oh, these guys, like they would just tell me things. I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, like the key, when they say you want what someone else has, it's not what you think. It's how they roll through life. Like, it's not going to be. I mean, if they have lovely things, then that's great. But we are obsessed with the outside. So what came to mind when you guys were speaking was that I always thought that now that I'm kind of doing these things a little differently, that the outside would kind of, like Shannon said, like, now the outside's going to transform before our eyes. Like, I've got my shit together. Time for all you to get your shit together. And that's not, that's like a very dangerous way to look at things. It's good to acknowledge for improvements, but that staying humble. So that's the whole point. So what I've noticed, anytime that I feel relief from something that previously had me kind of like in bondage of self, it's never because those things, I mean, okay, sometimes like um you get a parking ticket and they say, okay, well, you don't have to pay this parking ticket. It's like, oh, relief. But like in most things, especially with relationships with other people, you change inside. The outside doesn't change. It's not the, like, I always wanted the outside to change and then I'd be okay. And it's like, no, like I have to change and then I become okay with the outside. It's never the other way around. And I think that's how it works. And I think that's why um you just got all jacked and excited about the fever, because we realize it's like there's something more to this. Like there's actual opportunity to overcome all of our situations. Like, do you really think the God of our understanding would want us to like give up these uh, dependencies on these substances, learn all these spiritual principles, and then some event happens in your life where it's like, nope, it's over. Like, it was working until this event. It's like, no, man, it has to work under all circumstances. It has to work in all weather. And it can get really scary. Like, have been going through, my biggest fear in life has occurred to me in the last year. Like, what could tear my soul in half has happened to me. This, like, nothing else could be more scary than what I went through this last year for me. Someone else, it might be no big deal, but for me, the way that my values, the way that I invest myself, my fears, my hopes for the future, boom, like, the anchor line at the bottom of like the darkness, like way deep down where I anchored myself down, the chain had been like eroding on a rock, and there was like, felt like there was like only this much left, like it was gonna go and I was gonna get thrown back into this like horrible place where I'm unmanageable and I can't handle my feelings. And I'm hoping, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I'm pretty sure the chain held, and that like I'm making it through this storm. And like, holy shit, like it's no joke. Like, and if it wasn't for this stuff, no chance. No chance. I would have been gusted away months and months and months ago, out to sea, and for sure probably self-destructing, if I'm honest.
That's beautiful, man. And I'm glad I'm here on this journey with you. And I feel grateful to have watched you actually weather this,
Thank you.
It's
Yeah, I
proof
hope
in
that
the
wasn't a
proof in the
little
program. No,
theatrical, but I'm being honest.
I think you are. And I think that it's really healthy for you to be. I think you're finally
Yeah.
letting out some stuff that you've been holding in, and I'm just really grateful because I think that that's going to mark the shift in the healing for you.
Right on, brother. Yeah.
Yeah. Shannon,
Thank
do
you.
you have another question for me?
Yeah, thanks you guys so much for sharing so vulnerably and honestly, and dropping that guard, because that's hard, right? It feels exposed. But by
Yes.
sharing, our trials and tribulations and our feelings associated with that, that helps other people and in turn helps us heal too. So
Yeah.
you really just touched on what my last question was going to be about, which is how humility ties into emotional sobriety. So humility is, I'm going to read this,
Yeah.
Milan, and then I'm going to tell you my question. Humility is often seen as the cornerstone of emotional sobriety, as it involves acknowledging one's imperfections and limitations and appreciating the contributions of others. So when it comes to emotional regulation, how do you feel that practicing and living in humility has helped you soar in those kind of situations where you're really tested in your limits?
So I believe like our favorite quote together in options was what we have, is a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. I remember I used to say that. I used to say that it was to everybody in the outside world. That was Shannon and I's like inside recovery quote joke or whatever. And and I feel that that ties right into emotional sobriety. Like your spiritual condition really, to me, and emotional sobriety, those are kind of two different ways of saying what I feel inside me is the same thing. And that spiritual condition, is living presently, is not living in the shame and guilt of the past or the anxiety of the future. So what that does is that if I am maintaining my emotional sobriety or my spiritual condition, I'm going to react to things better just because I am closer to my higher power. And if I am, then I'm actually living inside these principles. Like I either have acceptance or I don't. I rarely kind of have a little bit. Like, kind of
Sure.
have a little bit means I'm telling you I have it, but I'm probably lying about it, and inside don't. You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Yeah.
like if there's still something that's not like tolerance or acceptance or love or honesty, like kind of being honest is still being a liar. Like it's all those things of kinda. So either tight with my surrender or I'm not. And if I am, then that is the freedom, like, and what I was saying earlier about the like the perpetual state of gratitude, it's somebody that I'm watching, somebody right now who's been in the program for a little bit that I've met, and I'm watching them express gratitude through all these little situations I'm seeing with them right now. And it really, to me, it's like it's an education on how to dig deep, you know? And if you can dig deep, like at first, it's kind of like, when you read the steps the first time. Oh, yeah, I've read the steps. That doesn't mean you have a clue about the steps, you know?
I've read
But,
them.
but it's also like when you start to do a gratitude list, like you think you know what you're thankful for. Like, but it's kind of like it starts off with like coffee, my dogs, but there's like some
Yeah, yeah.
fundamental things that we gotta like pull back. Like I'm pretty happy to breathe, and I swear it's barely ever on my gratitude list. But you take away my breath, and it'll be number one for Milan right now. You know,
Yes.
and so it's like backing up and like fundamentalizing things, and like gratitude also is something that keeps us from forgetting, you know, for not taking things for granted. And so for
Man.
me, I definitely can start by forcing some gratitudes in states that I'm not feeling it, and eventually that pushes that negative self-talk out of my brain and replaces it with a positive self-talk.
Very
And
nice.
and that to me can be what changes my day all day long. I'm gonna leave that there.
Yeah. Well said, my
Wow.
friend.
Man, I love you guys.
Me too.
I will need a
You
read,
to
please.
reread. Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
No problem. Humility is often seen as a cornerstone of emotional sobriety, as it involves acknowledging one's imperfections and limitations and appreciating the contributions of others. And I think you shared so much about appreciating contributions of others in your recovery and like meetings that you've heard people say things to you,
Oh
right?
man, yeah.
So how do you feel that practicing humility helps you grow in emotional sobriety?
Oh man. Oh, it's so deeply integrated and interwoven. You don't have access to this without it. It's a barrier. It's like almost like a frequency of uh so I always said that I'm grateful that I wasn't more successful as a young man, because I don't think I would have found this when I did, because external validation and or success would have kept me thinking that maybe I was okay, some other problem, or it was a bad this or that, or it's the luck, or maybe this, like, I mean, I was the guy that went and got like gastroscopy and like thought my stomach was something wrong with my stomach, even I was like like I was like, you know, in front of the church with my hands up, getting baptized, going to therapists. Like, never occurred to me that maybe I should just like, you know, get a hold of my like insane alcohol problem, and then which allowed me to have access to this stuff. So again, like, I don't think I had access to the solution without the way it happened. So what did I watch? I watched something recently where someone actually said, and he said, like, for anyone else that hasn't found the solution, like, I wish you profound pain and whatever that will take so that you can get to a point where you can find what I have.
Woo!
And they said it knowing, and again, if you find it without the pain, God love you. You are one blessed person, but it seems like it requires a lot of discomfort. Like, this sense of self resist, like coming up against like the actual forces of nature, like it's gonna crumble eventually. And thank God it did. So um I look at it like humility is the door, and it keeps getting wider or maybe getting narrower. I don't know. But basically, I mentioned it earlier. Anytime there's a lesson or an opportunity to grow, depending on how much resistance is in me, shows how much self is left that needs to be uh, dealt with, and it only gets dealt with through these principles and these life events, which remind us of what we still need to work on. And if you're willing to listen, so like little ones, the micro ones, you know, like let's use the example of the gratitude list, the sun, my dog. So when it's like, oh, I didn't drink today, or I'm thinking about quitting smoking, like these wonderful things that we all kind of end up trying to do or think will be the solution to our inner problems. And then next thing you know, you lose a friend, or your mom, you know, she lied to you about trying to get off the pill she's been taking for 25 years, or I can come up with other things. And now you got to really, and then now you got some real stuff to deal with. And it's like, so what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And you know, the old me did what I did, and the new me's trying to do new things. And so back to that point, and then I'll move on, is the level of resistance to what is happening before my eyes is the work, and the level of humility that I'm willing to access, which usually means getting out of the way, as we've mentioned, will determine how God can work in that circumstance. And I know for a fact that when that magic is allowed to happen, the outcome is always substantially better than anything I could have ever come up with. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yes.
Bringing
Yeah.
the fire,
You're on
Mr. B.
fire.
Olt.
I love it.
You guys.
Love it.
And super insight. Can you answer your question?
Sure. Sorry, I just had to stretch there. Okay. Well, I was just reading this sentence that said, emotional sobriety is about developing emotional maturity, managing emotions effectively, and avoiding overreactions.
Ooh.
If I'm not spiritually fit, I didn't even get a point for writing my name properly on that test. It's an automatic failure because that's how I live. I don't manage emotions effectively. I don't avoid overreactions, and I'm not great at developing emotional maturity because those are not things that come naturally to me as an alcoholic.
I'm
So,
laughing because I understand.
so like, walking in unison in life with others, with God leading, do I want to be? So I have to get honest first and foremost, right? And that is honest about my limitations and where I struggle and where I really need God's help, which is in all areas of my life. So when I'm going into situations or I'm thinking about the 24 hours ahead, right, in my life, like I'm bringing God into all of that because I can't be practicing humility on my own self-will. Like these aren't things that naturally come to me, right? Like the
Mhm.
correlation of emotional maturity and humility. Because yeah, I can understand and know my limitations, but to be in full acceptance of that, that's where I need God. Because I'm an alcoholic at heart, right? And in my head, that's where my disease lies. So it's you to be completely humble is to realize that we need help, and I don't do well with things that make me feel powerless or like I'm weak in an area. That's why I struggled so much with step one, and was like, well, if they could just change that word powerless, then I could probably accept this a little bit more, because powerless not weak to me, like, and I'm just walking the audience through the insanity that goes on in my head. So, yeah, when it comes to like really having that emotional sobriety component in my life, then I need to be really honest with where I struggle and be willing to ask for help, and also be willing to be vulnerable and show my authentic self, right? Like you need to be in humility to pick up the phone and call your sponsor and say, I'm struggling. I need to be able to practice humility and to be okay with that by sharing with you guys, right? So, like for me, the emotional sobriety really comes to like cultivating healthy and balanced reactions in life. So, not controlling or suppressing my emotions, but instead having a balanced reaction to things,
Mhm.
balanced
Nice.
with humility, which comes with understanding my limitations too, and
Mhm.
giving myself grace when I'm not perfect in a situation, and giving other people grace too. Because how can I be like,
Mhm.
I can't believe you've raised your voice and blown up on this, when truthfully the only difference is that you beat me to it, right? Or
That's
I
right.
said something
That's right.
that I knew was a direct trigger to you, right? Like we're not stupid, right? We're very
That's
smart
true.
people. We know how to, set people off. So
No
I got to
question.
show
Yeah.
you love, tolerance, acceptance, and grace as I want shown to me too. And being humble means I can be more emotionally regulated too, because I'm not better
Nice.
than.
That was
Nice.
wonderful. So we've come to that part of the day we're going to
Lightning
call
round.
Lightning Bolt Round. I'm going to start with a question. I got 1 minute on the clock. We're going to go until we run out of time. Okay, so first of all, oops, sorry, I didn't mean to start that clock there. To be humble in recovery is to recognize that the truth, no matter how small or painful, will always set us freer than denial ever could. What truth about yourself did you first resist in recovery, and how did accepting it change you, Mr. Olt?
Um, what truth? Well, I was blown away with the. I think one of the greatest things I was ever shown was just how far off I was with my conception of like what was healthy and unhealthy, honest, dishonest, fair and unfair, all these different dualities. Like essentially, like this gentleman, like he threw so much wisdom in my face, I couldn't figure. I was like trying to pick it all up at once and dropped some, and then picked it up, and basically, when this gentleman told me that I was the problem, changed my life forever. And it was a good thing because I had that like, oh, I can't believe that it's all come down to this. Like, it turns out I am the problem. But what happened was when he told me that and I accepted it, it gave me access to everything we're talking about today. So accepting that I was the problem.
I love that. Okay, Miss Shannon, what truth about yourself did you first resist in recovery, and how did accepting it change you?
I wouldn't have a recovery if I wasn't able to accept my first hurdle, which was understanding that I had, and not even understanding, accepting that I had the disease of alcoholism and that there was
Mm,
absolutely no way that I could control, change, limit, or beat this thing, that I was never going to be able to drink again. That was a real tough pill to swallow, for sure.
yeah, well
Um,
said.
so I had to have a firm grasp and understanding without limitations and without doubt on step one for me to even have a chance at having a recovery. And understanding that powerless did not mean weak. It did not mean that I was defective or any of that, that it meant that I have a disease and there's absolutely no way I'm ever going to be able to reverse that. But I can live happily, joyous, and free once I practice acceptance and accept the principles that come with it, and really what this program's all about. And I'm grateful that I was able to.
Nice.
Boom. That was beautiful. Okay, so what truth did my about myself did I first resist in recovery, and how did accepting it change me? So, I mean, I think I talked about my surrender a bunch this show, but I think another thing that really happened with me, like my name is Denial Dan, and I was in denial of reality. Like, what happened for me was that I thought everything was your fault. I was in denial about like the truth of everything. I created these delusions that were like such perfect using enabling delusions that I could use for anything. Like I was in denial about the fact that I had a part in anything. Like everything was everybody else's fault. I was in denial that not everybody celebrated every person on earth's birthday. Like if there was a birthday like 5 towns over, I was like, I gotta go, man. It's time to party. So like denial Dan just didn't live in the truth one bit. And a big part of that
Holy
was
moly.
shattering the delusions. Okay, Mr. Lightning B. Olt, you've got to ask Shannon a question. Lightning
Oh,
round.
jeez.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, one sec.
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
Oh
it's
my
lightning round.
God. Uh,
I love you guys. By the way, there's lots.
okay, so I think we've kind of done it, but we'll do it again.
Do it again.
When was the last time your fear-based self or ego got in the way of your spiritual progress? I think we've definitely done this. And what did you learn from it?
We're doing it again.
Let's do it
Did you
again.
put the timer? Last night.
Ah, and what happened?
Turned into not having a respectful, loving conversation, but
Yeah,
instead two fearful people, right? Engaging and really like igniting each other's fears. And
there it is.
instead of feeling good after that, I walked away feeling really gross. And then I prayed and I course corrected, right? Came in, owned my part, and
Beauty.
said instead how I wanted to show up and was able to have a healthier conversation. That's huge growth,
Nice.
because before I would have marinated in that. And if I'd been drinking, it would have been like, "Well, now's a chance to really show them. I'm going to go out and drink at them and, drink the poison and wonder why they're not suffering." So
Amazing.
quick turnarounds.
I'm I'm glad I asked. Milan, when was the last time your fear-based self or ego got in the way of your spiritual progress, and what did you learn from it?
Okay, so for me, it really was what I was talking about earlier about just living in the fear and not having that gratitude in every single situation. Like it was blocking me from actually growing because I was stuck in the problem and not actually seeing the solution that was progressing. And quite like Mary marination below me, like, I would have marinated in that for weeks and weeks and weeks. But now I'm able to actually see the solution and start working towards it. So like denial, Dan can't deny how gratitude can change my day, my life, and just moving towards the solution by being thankful. And without that like gratitude, I probably wouldn't love you guys as much as I do today because I love you tons.
Nice one. Okay.
You got to
Yeah.
answer it.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Go.
It happens constantly. So, I don't have a specific situation, but it happened yesterday, the day before, and the day before that, and I think it happened every day before that since I've been born. Basically, okay, so I have this image in my mind when I think about this. So there's this guy that jumped from like a Red Bull hot air balloon that was like on the out in the abyss at the like right at the brink of space in like our atmosphere, and he had like a 4 minute free for all. I don't know if you guys ever watched that video. He literally skydives from space. That's what the last like year of my life's been like. And he literally goes into like a spin. It's like a death spin, and it lasts like 2 minutes, and then he finally like puts his arms out and he like gets his balance, and then he like floats down like a normal skydive, and he survives. So I don't know what I just said, but that's what my life's been like. Like I can't get my orientation. Like, should I go there? Should I go there? Where should I go? What should I do? You know what I mean? And so yesterday I finally realized that I'm happy to be where I am.
Woo. Okay, Mary Marination, you got a question for me?
This is gold. I'm gonna make up my own recipe of my own marinade. Splash of
That would be
anger,
awesome.
Splash of anger, heavy on the resentment.
You should. More sales pitches.
Oh, hold on though. Didn't
I'm
didn't,
gonna
love
make
didn't
how
you
a
we're
like
recipe for myself.
didn't you like a little self-pity on that too?
Oh yeah, dash
Yeah.
of self-pity.
Yeah, well, the first three ingredients are always the strongest base of something, right? So that one's
Yeah.
got to go right to the bottom too. Judgment too.
Yeah.
Okay. So ready?
Yeah.
Who am I asking the question to?
Me.
Okay.
Dan.
Give me an example today of how you demonstrate humility by putting others' needs before your own.
Boom. You know what comes to mind is just my parents here and sort of, trying to make sure inside my day that everybody's kind of getting the care that they need before I go off and just kind of ignorantly am not considering them. And then, one thing that I find as great educators of my humility is my dogs. Like
Yes.
I mean, dogs do give unconditional love, but they also require unconditional love to be cared for.
Yeah.
If, at least from me, like I don't want to have a dog that I don't like, and so it's like this morning, not trying to rush them to go to the bathroom on the walk. Honestly, on a busy
Yes.
day, that is like a real surrendering moment to me, and so give them time to poop.
Don't rush the dog's poop.
Yeah.
You're such a good guy. You're a great guy.
Okay, lightning. How do
Lightning.
you give an example of how you're working towards putting others' needs before your own and how that ties into humility?
So I've been back in my homeland for a little while now, and I've been gone for 10 years. So there's a little bit of like, when are you coming over? When are we going to see you? And it sounds like I'm being vain, but like it's hard to be honest about what my needs are, but also like take advantage of the situation because I really want to see everyone. And just navigating feeling like I'm disappointing people and all that stuff. But I actually, first thing that came to mind was my dog, and she's at the foot of where I'm hanging, and she's had a porcupine quills in her face and hands this week. She's had ticks on her, and I've been like tending to her and like very much making sure she's okay, and realizing just how like special she is, and just like Milan said, just yeah, she's what came to mind is like really being good to her and making sure that she's okay, and it'd be really easy to not like check in with the canine.
We have our humility hounds. Okay, Shannon, would you answer your own, Mary Marination? Could you answer your own question?
That is amazing.
Yeah. I was just in Salt Lake City this past week for work. I've never been there before, and I loved every moment of it. And
Nice.
it's really getting to know people, building those relationships, and caring so much about understanding my clients or potential clients' business and needs than it is about a sale. And I really focused on building relationships while I was there rather than what the outcome will look like. And
Nice.
I came back feeling so whole and full.
Amazing.
I love that. Okay, I'm going to start the last round. Here we go again. Humility is the quiet admission that we are not the center of the universe, but we are still deeply worthy of love within it. How did accepting that you weren't the center of everything help you reconnect with others, Mr. B. Olt?
That's a great question, and I think it's really like so. That's that they always talk about the right sizing your self importance. It says there's the difference was okay. It's such an amazing thing. It's like you have value that can't be denied. It can't be taken from you. It can either be you can allow something to take it, or you can willingly give it away. Like but you have value. So there's this weird thing where it's like you are very extraordinary and beautiful and valuable, but you just aren't that important. and if you can handle that, then you're on the right track.
I love that.
That's
Okay.
all I have.
Marination. How did accepting that you weren't the center of everything help you reconnect with others?
I haven't got there yet. No, I'm just kidding.
That was awesome.
Um,
I'm going to marinate
Yeah.
on that one.
it just makes me feel more emotional closeness and being able to be more vulnerable, right? And showing my areas of opportunity or my weaknesses and everything, I bond more with others, right? And I allow other people to help me and to get close to me that way. So definitely a stronger and deeper emotional connection in my friendships and my relationships. And that's beautiful. Than feeling like I can listen and help you, but like I'm not going to show you who I am. And makes me a bigger part of than once removed, which I need because addiction isolates me.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you, Vera Vulnerability. Okay, now,
Whoa!
how did accepting that you weren't the center of everything help you reconnect with others? Man, okay, so like going from trying to control everybody and everything to trying to accept everybody and everything. It even says in the book that people are going to, be angry with you and resent you for trying to control them and they're going to,
Yeah.
and I feel like I pushed so many people away. And so for myself, it's been a real process of amends and trying to show tolerance and acceptance for loved ones and family members. Because I think that, like, although we're supposed to be independent people, I do think the way we treat someone will start to reflect in their own self-image, and if you're not showing acceptance for someone, then you're making them feel like they're wrong about themselves all the time. And I
Sure.
never realized that until I was in recovery. And so for me, that's been a huge shift, is just trying to show people how great they are. Okay, guys, I want to say that I love you guys so much, and
Yeah, you
that
too.
today has been amazing. We'll
Sure has
pick a
been.
topic after this because I really got to roll. But I wanted to
Okay.
say, tune in next episode for more recovery fun. Bye bye, everybody.
Bye,
I
everybody.
love you.
Love you guys.
Please help us help others. If you'd like what you've seen here today, please subscribe and share this podcast and help us get to 100 followers. We're looking for interaction with our audience. So please email recoveryfreedomrising@gmail.com or contact Milan South Okanagan Starcic on Facebook with questions, topic suggestions, or just comments. We'd love to hear from you.